Okay, Russell. You like Adventure Time? They like Adventure Time? Just have fun. Be yourself. Woo!
Your intro is in unacceptable conditions. No,
it's got to be fine. Come on. What are you talking about? It's a great. This is Never Ending Adventure Podcast, Ned.
Russell gets 12 years dungeon in Ned's basement.
Russell can't survive that long. I don't know if Russell can survive that long.
Oh, man.
Welcome.
I love that. First of all, I love that you made it through the most obnoxious intro we've ever done.
Oh,
ever.
No, we got to catch the attention. We got the podcast listeners in. They're fully invested in what we have going on here. Welcome to the Never Ending Adventure Podcast and Adventure Time Podcast. We're talking about Too Young today, Ned. I'm Russell Tyndall, one of your co-hosts, and Ned is on the other side of my screen and on the, in your ears as well.
Yes. And man, I'm so happy we're at this episode in season 3 now. Like, it was, I'm not going to lie, like, transition from season 2 to season 3. We were waiting for this episode to happen. We really were. You know, like this, you literally ended season 2 and you were like, man, I want more. I want the continuation. I feel like this should have rolled into season 3. And this really is conceptually rolling from season 2, you know?
It is, but why are we only getting one episode of like 13-year-old Princess Bubblegum? We need more than that. That's not right, man. That's not right. We need more than just one episode of Princess. Like, I get it. Being 18 is plop dumps and waggle zags, but we need more than one episode of her being Baloo Bazoobies or whatever the heck she called herself.
Yeah, she said Baloo Bazoobies. Being 13's Baloo Bazoobies. Man, no, it really is. I mean, I think if I had to wager a guess with the writers, I would really imagine that they had an idea to explore this, like, maybe potentially long-term relationship with Finn and Princess Bubblegum at her age, but like the way this one ends with her being like, oh, it's 5 years ago, you know, we're totally over that. It's kind of good that they didn't develop this into something that the audience was invested more in.
And wanted it to come back later on in the show. I agree.
It scratched the surface and it really made Finn.
It was a cool concept.
Yeah, well, it made him develop that whole thing where he now has a legit crush on her. Like, it's not just like a little, you know, kid crush on an older girl. Like, he sees the potential. He is wagering his bets. He is strategically going into these situations with like, this can actually happen now. And he's never done that before ever having like, he probably crushed on PB before with the mentality that it was never going to happen. So this is the first time we've seen him get in his zone. He calls up his boy. That's what we do. We call up our boys. He calls up Jake on his
Jake
little...
is not the boy you want to call up, though. Seal the deal, bro.
Seal the deal, bro. I mean, like, you need some guys in your life like that. You need some guys that, you know, they don't need to be all up in your biz about your relationships, but I do like how Jake is full moral support, but it's what we've talked about before. It's my Jake mistake of the episode.
Making bacon pancakes.
Is it?
It's when Finn calls him the second time, and he's just giving him the instructions to win.
We're going to the end of this episode right now?
Yeah, dude. This one has to jump all over the place. We cannot canonically...
Right. No, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah.
Because my Jake mistake
I just thought it was funny where we go like BMO at that first part when he says seal the deal, and BMO's like, how's it going? And Jake says, I think it's going good. And then that sassy BMO comes out. I'm like, your game, boy. I love that. But it's interesting that you want to go and dive deep into your Jake mistake.
Yeah, I wanted to knock it out.
I think it's a bad dog, too, living in a movie. Like, I think it's all over the place, dude.
You know the line is ragdoll living in a movie,
bad
right?
dog living in a movie?
That song is ragdoll living in a movie.
We've been over this.
It does sound like bad dog, though. But no, Jake is a bad dog in the sense that I love it in the beginning. I almost entered this episode going, is there a Jake mistake? And for sure, at the end, when he gives him the worst advice ever.
I got it broken down if you want me to go through it real fast.
Well, break it down because I will have the rebuttal to it for sure. Because it's fucking bad advice, man. Like, it really is
bad. Finn gets dumped, and Jake is like, here's how you win the heart of a princess. And he's playing his video game, and he's talking about his advice at the same time, which is really just what he did in the video game. But I love, and BMO has that. He doesn't approve of any of this. BMO has a frown at the end of it. But first thing he says is be persistent. So basically, if she doesn't like you, just keep at it. Like, you'll wear her down. It's okay. The second thing he says is beat a demon lord and warp through several worlds, which, okay, beat up people that are in your path for this person that you're pursuing and follow them wherever they go. So good advice too. I like it, Jake. Okay. Walk up the wizard stairs and unlock the chamber door. So just unannounced, I guess. Walk right up to the princess and give her a smooch. And no consent. Nice, Jake. Really love it.
Face value, there's a lot of things wrong with that. Like, literally, yeah, pursue her no matter where it takes you. I wouldn't give you that advice either as a person.
No.
Non-consensual kissing, wouldn't give you that advice as a person. My third reason, and the main reason why I call this my Jake mistake, is the fact that this is literally what Finn has been doing all this time. He's been adventuring, slaying demon dungeons, getting in the mix, like pursuing her, like, again, even at the end of the episode when he's like, run up those wizard steps. It's what he's been doing, and it's not going to work. And so it's like Jake is giving him literally just like the same advice of stuff he's been doing that's literally been, it's just bad. It doesn't work, and it's not going to work unless she's 13. And gosh darn, if she was still 13, this would still be terrible advice, you know?
Oh, totally. And I almost, at the beginning of this episode, my first thought was like, is it wrong for Finn to pursue her right now? Like, is this not okay? I know they're the same age, but just, she's not herself. She's not who she normally is. Is it morally, it's kind of vague, and it's, you know, maybe it's not wrong because they are the same age and whatnot, but it just feels weird for him to pursue her right now, in my opinion.
You hit the gray area there, and I didn't think about that as much in this episode, but I'm glad you brought it up, is the fact that, like, should he be helping her get back to her pre-lich state? Yeah. You know? And there is, maybe it should be a guilt factor of he's not taking advantage of the situation, but
no, gosh darn it, he's just enjoying it.
Feels like it, you know? You know?
A little bit. Well, here's what I'll say though. Mario from Super Mario or Mario 64.
Wait, hold on. Whoa. Which one?
Mario 64 is what I'm referencing right now.
Okay, good.
Really?
Good. I think that's primo right there. I love Super Mario, but Mario 64.
I think Super Mario is better. I don't know. Whatever. Boo. Okay, well, Mario 64 goes through the whole game, right? You collect all the stars, you save the princess. You know what he gets, what his reward is? He doesn't go up the wizard steps and gives her a kiss. They go and make cake. They just go back inside the castle and get a cake. Like, Mario just, I don't know, man. Finn, it's not worth it. Just take a lesson from Mario.
Is my lesson of the episode is just plumbers like cake?
Yeah, plumbers like cake, I guess. But it's just not, Finn, it's not worth it. It's not worth slaying the dragon just for the princess, you know, is what I'm getting at, essentially.
Yeah.
But that last scene has such a cool vibe. Like, I know it is a Jake mistake and it's our bad dog, but at the same time, you have Jake, and the music and the back of that is just so bubbly and cool. And Finn looks up at the tower and says, go up the wizard steps. And it leaves creates you with a really cool vibe.
It leaves you with a feeling. It really left you.
Yeah.
And I love that moment of this episode where it pans up and it leaves you with this ambient feeling. And that's how you're really getting into season 3 of this show and realizing that it's supposed to make you feel like Finn is on this development journey. And it's supposed to make you feel like this was thought through very, very thoughtfully by the writers of he helped her to become back to 18. And this was one of my deep thoughts of the episode, is that he could have just lived with it. Earl of Lemongrab takes over, whatever, but I got my lady. He does help her become 18 again, and it screws him over. So I love that.
Helps her prank him and goes way out of his way to make sure all that stuff, goes as well as it can go, sort of.
Well, the pranking is the immature part of the episode, and wow, I didn't know it'd be getting this deep this early, because this is like it's all my deep thoughts combined. Well, and we could talk about. I've got a lot of deep thoughts about Lemongrab.
Yeah, so let's keep it on Princess Bubblegum and Finn for now.
Finn, is that he does start off with PB pranking, and I love that, because that's so Finn, and it's so Finn's mentality of how he handles, like aggressive behaviors. He's like, let's just prank him, and PB's on board for that. Like, we've literally only seen PB in the last 2 seasons kind of like push back on Finn, and the things you're doing are juvenile, and she's like on board. I think she pranked him even. I think that bath serum or whatever it was that she created. Oh, that she made him like sip on.
Yeah. Well, immediately he was like, "Oh, hot, so spicy," or whatever, and that was a prank in my mind. She comes over and kind of,
oh, that's a good.
You're so spicy or whatever, and dude, the joy on Finn's face in that moment. I'm gonna have to make a post about it, because it is just the most pure joy I have seen on Finn's face this entire show so far. She comes over. It's
the first time she reiterates the flirty comeback ever. I mean, legitimately,
totally.
Ever. She kind of grabs onto his shoulder, and I mean, I can picture myself at 13, and even when I didn't like somebody, even like that physical touch, even that like, hey, like we're doing this flirty vibe, it gets in your head, man, as a 13-year-old. Holy crap. Like that.
Oh man, I was in my head.
Psych him out, dude.
When we were square dancing in middle school, I got to hold the hand of a girl I thought was cute or whatever. Definitely was way in my head about that. I think I had sweaty palms at one point. I'm like, what am I doing?
It's exactly it.
She doesn't like me. She's being forced to do this because of PE. We all hate this. I was like, get to hold her hand.
It's like your first taste at sexual tension. And at 13, I mean, that's when you get your first taste of sexual tension or flirtiness or whatever. And he actually likes PB, but I mean, even with people that you didn't like, you were like, whoa, what just happened? Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, is that the end of your deep thought about that? I mean, are you still...
I mean, I have a lot to say about it, but I do think it's just very interesting. You do see it. I mean, the Candy Kingdom. I saw it in Finn and PB's in their interactions, and she's being more juvenile in the way that she wants. They try to prank him 3 times, and that's what I love about this episode, is that she does become that kind of juvenile 13-year-old. But you do also see the Candy Kingdom's kind of in disarray. The beginning, it's very subtle, but the beginning of the episode, like like cinnamon buns like swinging from the rafters, like Manfred's hanging up. There's people partying in the throne room.
My kind of tops was the beginning of the episode when you see someone sliding down the stairs on a chocolate bar.
That was your tops?
Oh yeah, sort of was. Because it reminds me of being a kid when you like slide downstairs on a mattress or something.
Yeah, I love that.
And that's like such a joyful memory and moment. And so I saw that for just a moment. I was like, yeah, sure, that can be my tops. That's great.
Yeah.
Because Lemongrab's so much more than my tops. Let's be honest. He's wonderful.
He's my deepest of the episode. And I'm literally saving all that for the second half of this episode. I was like, oh, don't get me started. I'm gonna.
It better be worth it, Ned. We're gonna drag people out.
I see what you mean, though. Like it's so much fun at the beginning of the episode, but it is funny to think about the fact that she's 13 and has been 13 since Mortal Folly. Like, we can assume that this is some whatever 4 episodes worth of time is been the time that's passed since Mortal Folly. And things are going fine. Like, nobody's getting hurt. Nothing bad's happening. The Candy Kingdom's not in shambles. So even her at 13, she's doing science experiments. She's running the Candy Kingdom. People are happy. So it's just kind of interesting that with her aloofness and her 13-year-old similar to Finnness, it works. And then when she goes back to 18 and she gets all business again, it's like, is that really necessary? And I think she makes it necessary. She forces herself to be the responsible leader and being like, it's all business. It's all business. It's like a forced thing. Like she didn't have to be that way because her candy people are really happy. Like kind of in any situation.
When there's less rule going on. Yeah, it's almost like she is going at it from a different perspective when she gets a little bit older. But
yeah, I know she's taking the responsibility aspect. And I mean, we can really get deep into life concepts. Like when we get older and we think that our really creative ideas, music, business ideas, and sales ideas, whatever it is, has to be so serious. And honestly, the environments that we live in, they can be jovial. They can be fun. They can be sliding down the banisters on mattresses, sliding down the that is a hard phrase.
It is a hard phrase.
That can be what works in a functional world. And it's only in our matureness where we kind of separate ourselves from that and we think it needs to be all business. And so I appreciate 13-year-old Bubblegum's ruling of the Candy Kingdom because everybody seems pretty darn happy.
I mean, what a dang bold move by Finn, though, asking her to hug some more after she turns 18.
What is it? Didn't Jake say, shoot your shot, man? Like,
yeah, he really did. He really shot a shot there.
He pretty much, Jake was like, shoot your shot, dude. Like,
well, I've got a new segment for you, Ned. I know you love how many segments I have. So here's a new one.
This show's going to end up only segments in like 5 seasons.
This segment's called If I Had a Nickel. And in this segment, here it goes. If I had a nickel for every time in my life I had someone say to me, only the heat from a whopping love hug can catalyze the re-agifying process. If I had a nickel.
You'd have one nickel.
Oh, if I had a nickel. Is that magic or science, Ned? That's what I want to know. Because she's so about science, but it's so vague in the show.
This was another one of my deep thoughts of the whole show. Is that?
Yeah, I think we need to dive into that. It just feels like Adventure Time is loose with their definitions sometimes when it comes to magic and science.
They are doing that. I don't know. Maybe in this season they are. For sure, later seasons they make it a gray area because magic obviously exists in this universe. Like we have a guy named freaking Magic Man. Like,
oh yeah.
Now PB when we really, really get into later season PB, she does think that all of magic is science. And there is something scientific happening. Somebody's manipulating atoms. It really gets into play when PB and Fire Princess start kind of fighting with each other. And she's taking things out of the Fire Kingdom, thinking that they're scientific things and they're kind of more magic-based things. But I love that you bring that up, though, because that's kind of the funny line of isn't all science magic and isn't all magic considered science?
Well, in a make-believe world, I feel like it is.
But if you could break down, like something was magic, but then if you studied it enough and you could break it down, and it was psychological wavelengths of meeting this wavelength and only certain people. You could break all magic down into us. And PB tries to break magic down to a science constantly through the show. And
the unknown of science can seem magical, essentially, is what you're getting at.
Exactly. And I think PB always thinks that the unknown can be known. Okay. So her thing going, this hug is going to be the science that molds me. So
ridiculous.
It is magic. It totally. I mean, it's a
totally
bunch of
magic.
Candy parts licked together, and then a warm love hug is what makes her 18 again. Is magic. But does PB understand?
Looks at the bonding agent. That's so ridiculous.
Does she understand magic so well that she has magic down to a science, that she knows that that's the secret ingredient? So is she a witch? Is she a scientist? Like,
she's a witch.
She's a witch.
Let's see if she floats. Tie a Brit to her.
And build a bridge out of her.
Build a bridge out of her. Waiter gets a duck and see which one's heavier.
That's for those who think we're just being crazy right now. That is a Monty Python reference. So just pick up on that one.
No, we're all crazy. We're as crazy as Princess Bubblegum is with her magic or her science. I mean, she's a witch for sure.
Yeah, she's a candy witch.
And also, Finn, the bonding agent, like, what the mouth do, dog? What? What's up?
What? Did you literally just say what that mouth do, dog?
What'd you say?
Did you say what that mouth do?
I didn't say anything. I think we need to go to a commercial break. This is getting out of hand.
Oh, this has been my favorite episode this season. This is so good. Okay. I love this.
This is a great episode of the show. It really is. This is a fantastic episode.
Oh, we're going to come back from the break and we're going to talk about Lemongrab specifically because I did separate this episode and it was like the things to talk about are PB and Finn on one side in this dynamic, this whole like welcome back from Mortal Recoil. And then we got Lemongrab, so we're going to dive into some Lemongrab coming up soon.
Lemongrab and a little bit of like Peppermint Butler hate happening. I don't know. I want to dive into that too.
Well, we get some dynamic pep up, which we will also get into that. Which is
okay, cool. All right, y'all. We'll see you in a second.
Coming to you today from the Bubblegum Lab Co., our new age-defying lemon juice sour serum. Have you ever wanted to be older? Have you ever wanted to be younger? Well, the young Miss Princess Bubblegum, the new ruler of the Candy Kingdom, has released a new spicy serum to take your age and make it a thing of the past.
And I'm Randy Ringpop, and I wanted to hit on the older candies, and so I took a bit of this serum, and now I'm an old dum-dum. I love it. They all love me now. Only the old ones, of course. No young people like dum-dums.
And I'm Sammy Sweet. I used to be the boring old strawberry candy your grandmother left behind, and now I'm a strawberry ring pop, and all the kids want to have me. I'm so glad I'm young again.
Get yours today. Age-defying lemon juice sour serum. And we have that on the recording.
It wasn't even counting down that time. It just went straight in.
Yeah, we just went straight in. That's how we typically do it, guys. You know, you're getting a little flavor for our creative process.
We realized in the commercial that we kind of hopped right into this episode and wanted to give y'all a little bit of what we normally do at the beginning of this episode. Ned and I got to hang out this past weekend, I guess. Yeah. When was it?
It was like Wednesday night.
Yes, Wednesday night.
It wasn't even a weekend.
We went to this place called White Limo, and it's a Dolly Parton bar. Yeah. It's just pink. Everything everywhere is pink.
Everything's like white leather and like suede pink, basically.
I was like, Ned, what are you trying to say? Where are we going? Is this a weird date thing that's happening between us right now?
I'll go on weird dates with you all the time.
We had cocktails, talked to the bartender a lot.
Got hit on by some managers from Great Clips Corporate, you know.
That was less fun.
That was not very
Great Clips sponsor us.
Oh, geez.
Your employees love us, I guess.
Apparently so. Apparently they love
your
a lot of people.
employees.
But the good thing is that we got to have our good creative juices and our friend mentality keep thriving.
No, because it was fun. We got to. You came up for work, right?
Even since I've been in Atlanta, we've had. Yeah. I mean, gosh, it's been 4 months and we've already hung out with each other twice and got to shoot the shit. So, like, you know,
it's good.
We're keeping it alive. We're keeping the vibe alive.
Trying to. Otherwise, this podcast would be so bland.
I mean, dude, there was at least 2 month spans of time during COVID where we didn't see each other, like in the early days, you know? So we would just treat it like that, you know? It's all good.
Yeah. Well, it was great. It was fun to see you when you came up here. And we were going to like thinking of things that we could do. Honestly, we might do a live sometime soon. I think that could be fun if we planned out going live on socials at some point. But let's get back into this episode. We'll wrap it up at the end of this episode. Ned, we have my lovely coming in this episode, an incredible new character.
Give me some sugar, baby.
Ooh,
the Earl of Lemongrab.
Earl of Lemongrab. He got your lovely. He did.
Did he not get your lovely? Why would he not have your lovely?
He didn't get my lovely.
What? Who's
not
your
this
lovely?
one. Do you want to know?
No, when you come to him, let's bring him up. But let's talk about Earl Lemongrab. I don't want to tease.
I just want to more hear your description and give me the reasoning of the lovely.
Yeah. Well, it's Justin Roiland. What else do you need, man?
It's true.
The voice actor for Lemongrab is Justin Roiland, the creator of Rick and Morty, the voice of Rick and Morty.
Yep.
The dude's hilarious. He's so funny.
I do think it's so amazing that this is pre Rick and Morty, and like we're getting it's his Morty voice. Like this is his Morty voice.
And he comes in on what I can only describe as a camel, and I'm pretty sure I saw this in Kenobi episode 3. The camel that he comes in on is definitely a Star Wars character. I can only assume. It's so funny looking.
I love that reference.
Yeah, but he's obsessed with giving everyone dungeon, and he's got something messed up in his mind, sort of. He's kind of cinnamon bun-esque, is what I wrote down. Like,
interesting.
He kind of reminds me. He's a little off. I know Princess Bubblegum says in this episode that it's the first experiment that she had that goes wrong or that went wrong.
Well, you do see his first interaction with a candy person when he walks in is with Cinnamon Bun. Because Cinnamon Bun falls off the trapeze, and his first interaction and giving a candy person the dungeon is Cinnamon Bun, which is maybe not a experiment gone wrong, but it was an experiment half baked.
and from the gun, says that the kingdom or the castle or whatever is unacceptable. Gosh, it was so freaking funny. I love it. He's definitely my lovely. I want to say, though, we need redemption for Lemongrab. That's what really needs to happen at some point. I need another character arc for him. I know he's next in line for the Candy Kingdom. He's obsessed with giving everyone dungeon, but we got to get him back because he gets wronged. I felt bad for Lemongrab at the end of this episode.
Good. No, that is how like you should be feeling at the end of this episode.
Okay, good.
And the first time I watched the show through. The first time I watched the show through, I don't think I thought twice about it. I just thought, he comes off as an antagonist, but he's really not an antagonist at all.
See, I didn't even feel that. I felt like he was just like, he's a little annoying because he's
fulfilling his duties, really.
But it's in a little obnoxious way. He's very much that character from I almost said A Knight's Tale. It's not A Knight's Tale. It's a movie that people our age love, but wasn't nostalgic for me. So I've only seen it once. Inconceivable.
Oh no, Princess Bride.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of that character a little bit. But he's just great. I don't really think he was an antagonist. I think he was made out to be by Princess Bubblegum, and I want a redemption for him at some point.
No, I love that you say that because, again, for the listeners out there, Russell's never seen this entire show. So,
we haven't even mentioned that.
No, I mean, I would hope that listeners at this point realize that Russell is a first-time watcher of this show. So,
yes, very
his
much
feelings and his thoughts about characters are taken at face value as we come across them. And I mean, that's why I was so pumped to talk about Lemongrab today. Is that this is one of the weirdly. It's not one of these storylines that goes into multi-dimensional theory. It's not one of the storylines that goes into deep magical things. It's a storyline of Lemongrab, and he doesn't come back till season 4. And then after season 4, they do a really intense, deep thought aspect to the Lemongrab kingdom because he is a product of Princess Bubblegum. We've already talked about the god complex that Princess Bubblegum has.
Would everybody else in that kingdom also be a product of Princess Bubblegum, or is it just him and he kind of
no, that's the kind of and I'll do a spoiler drop here.
Spoiler drop.
Lemongrab starts his own king. It's not a kingdom. It's like the Lemongrab, subsidiary
of the babies.
So she gives him, because he's so off his rocker.
Okay.
She helps him begin to go, I realize that I created you. I have to let you live in your essence, because you cannot coexist in this candy kingdom. You are just so off your rocker. But I created you. I can't destroy you. So she gives him the ability to make his own people, his own kingdom, and things like that. And they essentially operate within their own society. So my deep thought here is that she brought him into existence. His created essence is sour versus sweet. Princess Bubblegum is sweet and he is sour in his essence. And so she goes, I made a mistake. But my deep thought is like, did she really make a mistake? Or did she just purposely create the antithesis of herself?
Oh.
Somebody that is sour instead of sweet. She creates him. She sends him off to his own kingdom to live his own life. He never gets what's acceptable in society. That's why his phrase is unacceptable. He created his own version of acceptability.
Yeah.
So everything he deems as unacceptable is totally based on his own concept, as if he defined society without any guidance whatsoever. And so all of his craziness, off the rockerness, you can't blame him for it, because he had to come up with it on his own. And the way he was created was to look at life through a sour lens,
Wow. Well, man, here's what I'll say too. Princess Bubblegum, I just thought of this. I have an issue with how she deals with people that she deems off their rocker or not correct or okay. You have the royal tart toter, the old tart toter, who she says is crazy and basically warns against hanging out with him or whatever. You have old Mr. Cream Puff, who I guess died, or she tried to bring back to life in the very first episode.
Who knows how he died?
Lemongrab. You have Cinnamon Bun. Like, there's all these characters that clearly aren't perfect or fully aware anymore. And she seems to just kind of neglect them. Like, that's not being a good ruler. That's not, maybe there's a parallel to modern day society and how we treat, the mentally ill or homeless people or something. I don't know. I haven't thought deeper into any of that, but certainly that's an interesting concept. I want to be looking out for that as we continue to watch. Are there other characters that are that way that she is kind of ignoring in her kingdom?
And it does, that really does come up in the show again. And Lemongrab comes back into the play in season 4. So we do have a bit of a break before our next Lemongrab. And the next one with him is called You Made Me. And the whole concept of that episode is that he's trying to study the candy people on like how to be happy and how to have a functional society. And he's like creeping on the candy kingdom to like study.
He's Ice King.
Yeah, but then he goes,
kind of Ice King.
His line in that episode, he like runs away upset and he's like, you made me. And
dang, dude.
Princess Bubblegum keeps hating on him. She's like, you're a crazy person. Get out of here. We don't want you here. And he's like, you made me this way. So like, how can the person that made me hate me? And that's where the Lemongrab story, and trust me, the Lemongrab story gets way deeper. There, he gets a twin brother. They start making their own people. There's Lemon Harp No Hope or whatever his name is. Like, there's a whole Lemongrab story coming up through the rest of the seasons, and it's all really based around the fact that Lemongrab's trying his best, and he just can never live up to the expectations of his creator because of the way he was created. It's really intense, man. Yeah.
I gotta say, I'm super excited to have more Lemongrab. He's basically a meme. You see him all over the internet. Yeah. And I had seen Lemongrab before I ever even considered rewatching the show, or not rewatching the show, watching the show at all. Even back to freaking high school, people were talking about Lemongrab occasionally. It would come up randomly. So,
it's one of the most iconic characters from the show.
I know. I'm glad I love him as much as I do from this episode. And Justin Roiland is one of the funnier people, I would say, or one of the funnier creators out there in like the cartoon universe. So it's very exciting to have him in Adventure Time. That makes me excited for the future seasons and episodes. And along the lines of like characters that I love, I got to shout out Starchy for a second here.
Yeah,
because
I love it, dude. I love a Starchy shout out.
I love Starchy, and he is so funny. He has like 1 or 2 lines this entire episode, but he mentions Lemongrab gives him 3 hours in the dungeon, and Starchy says, "If Starchy survives that long." I just
he's
couldn't.
Such
dude.
a good, like he was in episode 1, man. He was like an OG character.
He's an OG. Why would he not survive 3 hours in the dungeon? Like,
because if you squeeze me, I'll fart.
Yeah, we need to get more Starchy too. I want Starchy background at some point.
We get the most Starchy background when it comes to Root Beer Guy and Cherry Cream Soda. Is like there's backstory. We get some really good like. What does Starchy do in his normal days? Cool. In the Candy Kingdom? We get that when we start going into the Root Beer
just hanging out in the graveyard.
He's like, I just had a good day of grave digging there.
He's a cannibal too, so that'll be interesting. Or at least it seemed like it in the first episode.
That's the theoretically speaking is Starchy eats all of the candy before he buries them.
Yeah, eats them to the bone. Man, and also Lemongrab came in and points at Princess Bubblegum, says that she is too young, and Finn slaps the hand away, and then does that thing that guys do sometimes, kind of in like movies and shows, TV shows, where they buff out their chest and they kind of bucks at Lemongrab
he kind of
a little
bucks bit. For PB a little bit. I didn't notice that. I didn't know. That's a good call. I didn't notice that.
Well, it made me laugh because it's a running joke between me and Allie, where she'll just randomly come up to me, like I'll turn and then I'll bump into her, and she's like, bucking at me, like, "Come on, you want to go? Like, let's go, bro."
That's so funny because that's not what I picture Allie doing at all. It's so funny.
No, I know it's just a running joke that we have going, and it's so funny because in her mind she's like, "Why do guys do that? Like, why is that a thing? Why is that like innate in our minds to like, oh, me strong man, like I'm gonna fight you or whatever."
You can call it egotistical. You can call it evolutionary, but it's one of those two things.
Finn does it in this episode for a split second, and I thought it was so funny.
Well, yeah, I love it. Right when he comes in, he's like, "How you doing, Peebles?" He has.
Peebles.
Remember how we like in like 2 episodes, or no, the end of season 2, we talked about how he started dropping out the nicknames when he started getting like closer to her. So he calls her like Peebles, like in this episode, and he's
still not on that Bonnabelle level though.
No, he's not on the Marceline Bonnabelle level. He never will be, honestly.
Oh, dang, man. Spoilers for the future. I can only assume.
No, we don't. You realize you could be rooting for it now. I give you the rooting for it now in season 3. You don't. Once Finn starts coming into his own, you don't root for Finn and Princess Bubblegum.
I don't think I ever really rooted for Finn and Princess Bubblegum. I think from the very beginning we were like, dude, she's not the best person.
Yeah. Well, and you can see it in this one. You see a little bit of her scientific mind and a little bit, it brings up episode 1, what we talked about when we started this podcast, the God complex, is that she creates him and she casts him out of the kingdom, and he doesn't come back until a law is enacted that he has to come back and be the ruler. And luckily, she acknowledges it, She acknowledges that she made a mistake, but then she wrote the rules, so she abides by the rules. Now, does she find a quick fix to it and go, "Hey, you butt, get out of here," and he leaves, I'd say that's in my top 3 tops of the episode. Is
when she calls him a butt.
She's like, "Hey, you butt, I'm old again," and he's like, "Ah!"
It's pretty great. I know, and then really he walks away. I just feel so sorry for him, but I don't know why they're like, first prank is a Rube Goldberg. I can never pronounce that. We freaking talked about Rube Goldberg stuff in this podcast.
Yeah, the Rube Goldberg, and I was just like, it just feels so Pee Wee Herman-esque. If you've ever watched, I
don't like when TV shows do this experiment, or it it's been done so many times. It's so boring. The issue is when you make them, you know they're not going to fail.
It's an entertainment.
I know, but you know it's never going to fail because they go one segment at a time. The person who creates it, like, they go viral on YouTube, and I'm like, of course it works.
Yeah.
The dude sat there for hours going, okay, this causes this to happen. Now I go back a foot and I go, this causes this to happen. But anyways, in this episode,
Russell, my lesson of the show is Russell is unimpressed by Rube Goldberg's.
Super unimpressed. But in this episode, it's funny because all of it happens just to piss off like a little gnome.
Give him the "you smell like dog buns."
Well, it pisses off a gnome, and all they really needed was the gnome to walk off the button.
No, did you see that they had like the start of the whole one was like a chicken. It was like a chicken cawing, or a rooster, which is typically supposed to wake someone up, right? So they started it with like the trope of like the rooster's supposed to wake you up, but they stuck corks in his ears. So silly. And then they were like, it could have just been the rooster to start with, but they did it all to just like put a little dink on his head.
He read the thing, the scroll, just like I read on this podcast sometimes. You really smell like dog buns.
Well, I love.
It's harmless. They start out pretty harmless, I gotta say.
Well, and that's what I was gonna say. I was gonna go off that next. Is like the first one was harmless, and it was this really complex prank to give him a piece of paper that was like, "You smell like dog buns." And the second prank was, let's put ghost outfits on. And I love it. He's just walking through the hall and they just freaking punch him in the stomach. And he's
That's
like,
the Finn way. That's the Finn prank.
Good prank. Good prank. You punch me. And I was like, that's the opposite of a good prank.
Well,
it's like, you
it's
just
funny too, because they convince them, they're like, you're supposed to laugh at pranks. Like, it's okay.
I know.
12 years dungeon, all of you, dungeon, 7 years, no trials.
So I think the differences in those two pranks is part of this episode that really shows that he is so disconnected from the norm. So Peppermint Butler, he gets pranked the first time. He gets really mad. Peppermint Butler's he's like, dude, it's a prank. It's just for laughs. It's just for laughs. And I think he's trying really hard to be normal, right? So when he gets pranked again, he gets punched in the gut, which is not something you should laugh at. But he's trying so hard to be a good Candy Kingdom ruler. That he's like, good prank. Good job, guys. He's so disconnected from society, man. That's his conception. He's like, I don't get candy people.
Lemongrab.
Thank you. And it makes me so happy that you are grasping the empathy for Lemongrab and his detachment from reality.
But Ned, I don't know if you're going to be as happy about me also feeling sad for Peppermint Butler in this episode.
Yes. Peppermint. Well, guess who got my lovely?
No.
Peppermint Butler.
Wow. Okay.
He got my lovely of the episode. Yeah. I think it's just his interaction with serving him the food. And I was just like, I just love Pep Butt. And he's trying to, and he's like the butler to the ruler. So
yeah, their interactions are so good.
Their interactions are so good.
He goes, I don't understand where food comes. He's like, I don't understand where food comes from. And then Peppermint Butler starts to explain it, and Lemongrab's just like, oh, that's why I'm royal and you're servile.
So I did have a really fun fact about that scene in specific, is that when Peppermint Butler goes, my lord, food comes from Mars, and then he cuts him off, is that he says food comes from Mars, and Mars is where Glob lives. I'm going to leave it at that because I don't want to spoil too much. But
oh my Glob.
It's not that the where food come from, like, that doesn't matter. But like the fact that Peppermint Butler is starting to do this, like, food comes from Glob. Food comes from Mars. Mars is important.
Is Glob like a bad guy? No, whatever.
It's the fact that they use the phrase, oh my Glob. You can think, oh my God. And
yeah, all of our freaking listeners are longtime Adventure Time lovers, they hate me right now. They're like, just talk about it. Why don't you just talk about it?
Yeah, we can't, guys.
No, I mean,
guys,
I can walk away.
I love you guys. We can't talk about Glob right now. All I can say is that Peppermint Butler did in this episode, before we've gotten to Abraham Lincoln, before we've gotten to Glob, before we've gotten to Mars, Peppermint Butler references it now. And it's there. It's so early in the show for Son of Mars, for Glob, for Abraham Lincoln. Like,
man, if I had a nickel, guys. Ned, if I had a nickel.
If you had a nickel for every time I made nonsensical statements that you didn't understand.
Every time you didn't spoil the show for me. If I had a nickel.
But I literally just said things that were nonsense. You don't know what's going to happen.
I get it. Glob must be some sort of a god figure or something like that. And or he is someone that Peppermint Butler works for or something. I don't know. Whatever.
See, I didn't spoil too much.
Maybe you didn't. Anyways, Peppermint Butler, I'm feeling sorry for him. The freaking spice drops in his eyeball. And he's just like, we're just so excited to serve you food. And then, but there's so many things that happen to him. He gets barfed on, like later on.
He gets halfway eaten, like sucked on by a Lemongrab.
When he falls inside Lemongrab's mouth. And then also he's the first one to remove half of, like a chunk of his body to help ageify Princess Bubblegum.
I love it though. And maybe he got my lovely because he is truly a servant to the kingdom of the Candy Kingdom. And Lemongrab becomes the ruler, and his loyalty is to Princess Bubblegum, but he is acting as the butler to Lemongrab when Lemongrab's ruling. So he's doing
interesting, really
cool. Like he is the Earl, not the Earl, but the assistant to the ruler, and he's doing that for Lemongrab. Now, is he also trying to mutiny Lemongrab out by serving him spice? Yeah, absolutely.
You think so? You think that's to get Princess Bubblegum back, or is there another reason for that?
To get Princess Bubblegum back, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think he has any disdain at all towards Princess Bubblegum. It's more like I feel like it's such like a movie. It's happened a lot in movies. It's like somebody falls out of power, but their loyal butler was like, my duty is to the king. But you know what, like on the side, like I'll help you out, Yeah. Because I want you to be king again.
Interesting. That reminds me of, I'm trying to look it up real fast, but this is going to be totally, there it is. I think it's Danzo. Do you know Danzo from Naruto, Ned?
No, I don't.
It may not be Danzo. I might be being it is Danzo. So Danzo is like in charge of the Anbu Black Ops in Naruto. So he's like the guy in charge of the CIA or whatever of Naruto's kingdom. And he is kind of played out to be an antagonist in some ways. He's kind of evil and you can't read his mind, but he doesn't seem like he's doing the right things. He's kind of being selfish in many ways, being super shady, but at the same time, in his heart, it feels like, and this is without getting too deep into the show, he's doing what he feels is best for the Leaf Village the whole time. Mm-hmm. And so I wonder if Peppermint Butler, like, even though he may be kind of evil in some ways, he is doing what he feels is best for the Candy Kingdom. Is that correct, or would that be?
You're on par. Off? You're on par with that. I think he's doing what's best for the Candy Kingdom. He's got a lot of backstory that involves like mystical dark arts and wizardry, death, spells, incantations. And his loyalty is to Princess Bubblegum to an extent, because I think he knows Princess Bubblegum is the best ruler of the Candy Kingdom. But it's not ulterior motives. It's more like he can do a lot more behind the scenes than a butler can typically do.
Cool.
So Princess Bubblegum may treat him like a butler, but he's got his own thing. Like he's kind of not a puppet master, but
yeah,
he's pulling strings behind the scenes.
Sounds like he's kind of Danzo from Naruto.
He's pulling strings and being like,
I want to binge this show. This sucks, dude. I can't watch.
Because you're like, dude, I like now you're when that's the big thing, guys. Like listeners out there, we've got Russell to the point where he sees the big picture that these characters. He's like, I just want to know what Peppermint Butler does. I just want to know what PB does. And like now we got him hooked, guys. It does take about this. I would tell people takes about this far into the show where when you start seeing the little things happen, you're like, oh shoot, I got it. Peppermint Butler. I know he's the agent of darkness, and he's in this episode. And you're like, well, wait a minute, what else is he doing? Like we gotta get to his core story, man.
Yeah, man. I might be a little hooked. I mean, it's either that or maybe it's my sunk cost, the monetary investment in this podcast. Into Michael.
If
Michael, shout out our incredible
DJ
engineer.
Cowboy Hat, Michael, incredible.
Yes, wonderful, wonderful human being who also left me, also no longer living in Nashville.
Yeah. He did move to Atlanta. I haven't seen him yet. It's been only like a week and a half, but
hopefully by the time this podcast comes out, you'll have hung out with him.
I hope so. I haven't had a moment to breathe since he's been here, so hopefully we'll get to hang out. But I love it. I do love it that the fact that this episode, with the fact that we have PB lore, we've got deep Lemongrab stuff. We've talked about Peppermint Butler. Now you're seeing that like in 10 minutes, they cram in 4 or 5 different deep concepts to where you're like, actually, a lot of stuff is happening in a really simple episode. A lot of moving pieces are happening.
Yeah, it is. Man, that's a good episode. I dig it. Do you have any other deeper thoughts, or are you ready to wrap things up for today?
Yeah, I mean, I really think that we went through my God complex. We went through Lemongrab just like kind of ruling the Candy Kingdom and being upset because he's off his rocker. He wants it to be the way it is, but it can't be because that's the way he's created. I really think we nailed everything, man.
Yeah. Well, let's get into our lessons. I've got a quick one. I think it's really obvious. Being 18 is plop dumps and waggle zags. And it's true.
That's a good lesson.
That's
a good lesson.
You got to deal with it though, but it is plop dumps, and it is definitely waggle zags.
Is that the only one you got?
Yeah, that's all I got.
I had some ones that, going back to the Finn story, and with Princess Bubblegum being young and him being like, this is opportunity, man. Is sometimes it's better to do something for the betterment of the larger picture than yourself. Is that he helps her become 18 again. And he knew, I could tell in Finn, he really just wanted the Candy Kingdom to get back to its normal self. But it meant that he gave up pretty much a guaranteed opportunity that he'd have a relationship with Princess Bubblegum. He really did give that up, man.
What was the deal that he was trying to seal?
I mean, he wanted
was
another
it the
hug.
Kiss?
Well, they did kiss. They
did, but initially during the play date, what was the deal they were trying to seal according to Jade, do you think?
I think the deal is that it was going to become relationship.
Their official,
a status or some sort of relationship status, because she threw out flirty vibes as shit. Oh my gosh, like when it was like, oh, you're so spice, and she like grabbed his shoulders. I was like, dude,
even at 13 years old, dude, come on,
dude. The flirt. No, that's when the flirt aspect. When you're 13 is like so aggressive, and that she knew exactly what she was doing. She was super flirting with him, man.
Yeah, she knew what she was doing.
And so, but the fact that Finn is so in his element of where he wants to be with his relationship with PB, that I do love the lesson is that he gives that up because he realizes that the Candy Kingdom under Princess Bubblegum is a better place than under Lemongrab, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's a really good thing. He gives up he sacrifices that. Second lesson is pet butt is the tits. He's awesome.
Wow.
My third lesson is that sometimes mistakes in your past can come and haunt you.
Mm-hmm.
And that Lemongrab is
fourth lesson.
That's it.
Okay.
I always list out things. Pet butt's the tits.
Yeah.
Sometimes you gotta think of the betterment of all mankind, and that mistakes from your past do come back to haunt you.
All right, let's get into the next segment as we wrap this up. My Rex.
Your Rex, yes, give me it.
My Rec, and we actually talked about this while you were here. I'll be fast because I know everyone's not interested. Formula One, freaking Drive to Survive. It's on Netflix. It's so freaking good.
I've heard that, man. Yeah.
I'm not even in the cars. I've never been a car guy, but I am just so into it's so dramatic. It's so much drama. It feels like I'm watching a reality TV show, but it's dudes about cars and about racing, and it's European people. And who doesn't love a good accent? Like it's got everything.
We drive for like 1.5 hour, 2.5 hours, and we go and smoke a cigarette.
So good. You should, if you're into it at all, if you like drama, if you like sports and competition and people on the edge of getting fired all the time at any moment, it's worth your time to watch. Allie has slept through some episodes and never seen a single one of them to my knowledge. So it's not for everybody, but for me, I think it's really funny.
So are you going to go to the Nashville Formula One race this summer?
I don't know if it's Formula One or IndyCar. I think we talked about that.
Oh, shoot, it's IndyCar. My bad.
It might be IndyCar or something.
Yeah, it's IndyCar.
So probably
But
not.
are you going to, well, this show's probably going to get you into some sort of racing mentality.
I don't know, man. Maybe. I think my cousin watched this show as well, and he and his brother and sister and maybe their parents went to Austin, Texas when Formula One came to Austin, Texas. So
I've driven the course.
That deep into it. Maybe I've
driven the course in Austin, Texas in an Audi R8, and it's pretty cool.
That's pretty dope.
I get it. Yeah, it's cool, man.
All right, what's your food wreck this week?
It's not a food wreck this week.
Drink?
It is a show wreck.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Dude, Obi-Wan
Kenobi.
show wreck. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
For all of my Star Wars fans out there, Obi-Wan gives you I love these Star Wars shows that are coming out, but so like Mando was great, but there was some ebbs and flows of episodes. There'd be a boring episode where fun things would happen, but it wasn't a lot of references. Obi-Wan is like references, answers, Inquisitors. I played through the Star Wars video game, which was where the introduction of the Inquisitors came from. Mm-hmm. It's tying so many things together where every episode I just about shit my pants. And I'm like, that's everything I ever wanted from Star Wars. That
I've got some issues personally with the Inquisitors and also all the focus on Leia, but it is really good. And I totally back it up. I mean, Obi-Wan is one of my favorite Star Wars characters. It's Luke and Obi-Wan for me. They've always been I think awesome. That's obvious for many reasons, but Kenobi especially has always been one of my favorite characters of all of Star Wars. I wanted so bad for Rey to be a Kenobi. Thought that would have been such a great twist.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we talked about that. Well, because again, with was it Empress Satine from Mandalore in the Clone Wars, I really wanted Rey to be the daughter of Obi-Wan and Empress Satine from the Clone Wars because they had a secret baby. I would have lost shit over that.
What?
No. Obi-Wan had a love interest.
I haven't seen Clone Wars yet.
Oh, that's okay. Where you get Obi-Wan almost had the same love interest that Anakin and Padme had with Empress Satine from
same
Mandalore.
Type of thing. Okay. Well, there's so much more they should have done in the prequels where they freaking should have made Anakin and Obi-Wan like brothers instead of like
they really should have made an episode. Like, if episode 2 ended, the Clone Wars TV show should have been 3 movies, and it would have been great. Like it would have been like the TV show is about 17 movies put into one.
I'll have to watch it.
The at least the bare minimum, the Obi-Wan show is my rec. It's doing. If I could have written an Obi-Wan show on my own, I could not have done this well, like at all, with how they're doing Leia, with how they're doing his stuff. Where I never even conceptualized that Obi-Wan thought Anakin was dead. He never realized that Anakin became Darth Vader. He just thought Anakin was dead.
Yeah, he kind of left him for dead for sure.
And he left him for dead. And so, like, when they have the moment in the show, spoilers for those who haven't watched Obi-Wan.
I mean, weeks ago.
Yeah, if you haven't watched it by now, then, screw you. So, yeah. Whatever it is.
That's always hate. No, Travelers, y'all are amazing.
You were amazing.
Thank you for
come and travel
back.
on my Obi-Wan adventure with me. There's so many things in the show that I'm picking up on, and it's everything I want out of filling in the gaps and filling in the answers to Star Wars that I want.
I'm glad you're enjoying it, Ned. It's good.
It is very
nice. Good. We just tried.
I'll talk for another hour about it if you don't stop me.
The rec segment was just a 5-minute segment. Let's wrap this up. Y'all, if you're still listening, thank you so much. Maybe we need to say this at the beginning of the episode and watch to get some more reviews in. Just kidding. We've had quite a few.
It might not be a bad idea.
Yeah, man. I mean, if you want to review the podcast on Apple Podcasts, or honestly, if you can only do Spotify and you really don't have access to Apple Podcasts, just let us know that you rate us a 5-star. I want a 5-star on Spotify.
5-star. Give me 5-star. Give me 5-star. Come on, man.
This is a great situation where me and Ned are probably referencing two completely different things in a similar way.
We are, absolutely.
Yeah. And we'll send you all a sticker. And also, I had actually someone reach out and be like, "Oh my gosh, Ned wrote me, or y'all wrote me a handwritten note, and that was so special."
I wrote everybody handwritten notes in all of their stickers I sent, and because I love you guys, you know it.
So, yeah, we love it. We appreciate the support. Also, a little shout out to anyone and everyone who has shared our episodes on social media. I think we don't normally talk about that, but getting other people in your friend circle or around you, or even just posting on Instagram and tagging us helps us a ton. I had someone at a wedding come up to me one time and say, "I recognize your voice. Do you do a podcast?" And it was one of the most remarkably crazy moments of the podcast, my life as a podcaster, sort of so far. But please do all the things. You can check us out on Instagram at Never Ending Adventure Podcast, TikTok at Never Ending Adventure Cast, Twitter at NEA_podcast, and email us. The Traveler's Log is always open if you have thoughts, opinions, whether it's from previous episodes or ones that we're about to come up to, and you can say in the subject line, "On this episode, read this, and this is my thought on this episode." We will do that, and we'll shout you out on the episode.
Yeah, we only cover
on YouTube.
We only cover so much stuff. We're missing so much good, theoretically speaking, so much good deep thoughts.
I'm sure.
Fill in our blanks, honestly. But also to Russell's point too, we're do those reviews, do those shares, not just because it helps our podcast, but because we are building this little micro community of Adventure Time fans. And the more we capture those, the more we have people having conversation on TikTok feeds and debating theories and keeping the show alive to a certain degree. And that's what this little micro community that we're building is supposed to do. Is supposed to get people talking, get people thinking, get you reanimated about something, about your childhood love. And that's what we're trying to bring into a wider community. And so don't just do it because it helps us. Do it because you love it.
But it does get us closer to the future of the podcast, whether it's better sound or it's visuals for YouTube.
Or me and Russell get hired to write the next season of Adventure Time.
Not going to happen, 10, and y'all don't want that. Y'all have listened to our commercials. Y'all heard the commercial today. It was so bad, y'all.
Hey, we had about
commercial.
45 seconds to come up with that. So if we can write that in 45 seconds, give me 45 minutes.
I just wasn't feeling inspired. I wasn't feeling inspired for a commercial this week. It was such a good episode, but I had no commercial thoughts. What I thought I did have, though, is that we will be here again next Tuesday for another episode of Never Ending Adventure Podcast. And obviously, y'all should just party forever.
And I mean, you know me. I loved you guys.